Here we are 2 weeks later, and after all of our prep is done, it's finally time to start doing the siding. Leading up to this, we did a ton of research on siding, trying to decide whether to do the engineered wood or to do the fiber cement siding. We ended up going with the engineered wood primarily because the two of us can handle it. It's light enough that one person can carry it, and it's not as fragile. Also, it requires no special cutting tools, and you don't have to worry about that silica dust. The studs in the garage are 24 inches apart, so we went with the 76 series, which is 7/16 thick. We also wanted a more modern look that fits our style, so we ordered the smooth type. Unfortunately, that combination is no longer available out here, so they just went ahead and sent us the 38 series. It is smooth though. Problem is, because it's thinner, it needs to be installed on studs that are max 16 inches apart. So the question becomes, do we add sheathing or do we add studs? After doing some price comparison, we went with option B. We are clearly not framing pros, nor do we have a framing nailer, so we just went with a boatload of screws and braces to add these guys. Other than a few fun obstacles like this, it was a pretty straightforward process. In anticipation of working on the gables, I went ahead and bought this digital protractor. Turns out the angle I got is the same as this mark on the saw. Took about a day to get all these guys in, and now not only do we have more surface area to attach to, it feels like it's a little stronger in there. Unfortunately, I had errands to run this morning, so I missed the demo of the north side, but Ames took care of it. Now, you might be wondering why we're not sheathing this, and that is because, according to this manufacturer, this product is a sheathing product in addition to siding. When we were pulling down the siding, we noticed that the soffit was in pretty rough shape, so we decided we're going to have to replace that all around too. Now we can finally get started with the siding, starting with the trim. Now, another thing the manufacturer recommends is attaching everything with hot dipped galvanized nails. And as I mentioned earlier, we do not have a framing nailer, nor do we want to rent one. So we went with screws, and I researched everywhere trying to find what kind would be a good kind to use. I found no answers other than they should be bugle head and be treated in some way to prevent rust or other forms of staining. So we're trying these coated deck screws. Only time will tell if this is wise, but there is one caveat that we noticed already, which I will mention at the end. After the trim is up, we put a spacer at the bottom to get that overlapping pattern to start happening. Now, to continue that overlapping in a consistent manner, we got these gauges. Unfortunately, they are for 7/16 thickness, but they still worked. Now, the other thing we need to do is make sure that there is a 3/16 gap at the ends to allow for expansion, and I tried a few different ways to do that, one of which was a tile spacer, put there twice. It seemed to work okay, though it was a little tedious and the gaps seem a little wide. These panels come primed, but anytime there was a cut, I painted the cut edges to hopefully deter any moisture from seeping in.
Oh my god, there's a big ass fucking lizard right here, baby.
Is it alive or dead?
It's alive.
Oh. The cage is also made for like a nice spare set of hands, so she could continue attaching and I would keep cutting, and we had a nice rhythm going. Now another thing you're supposed to do is put flashing over all the openings. Now we did not, and we'll see how that pans out in the next few years, but we figure it's right under the eaves. We don't get a ton of rain here, and this isn't a home, it's just the garage, so we're gonna roll the dice and see what happens. Now that we got the kinks out and kind of got our feet wet, we're going to move on to the longest side. So this side is going to have the longest continuous boards on it. With the demo done, we did just as before with the trim pieces on either side and then the spacer piece at the bottom. One thing we figured out right away is even though the side is very long, you still have to cut the boards so that the edges are at the center of a stud. With no openings or angles to deal with, it went pretty smoothly. As you'll see later on, there are a lot of spots where there's just not enough material to attach the trim to, and we ordered this wide trim to go on the front, and we ended up ripping it down so that there was enough to attach it to, but we kept one wide piece, and it was perfect for filling this gap between the end of the building and the fence. I had to work the next couple of days, but Ames got some other things done off our to-do list, like fixing the opening for the garage door. We ordered a new modern door, but it is months away from delivery and installation. Bust out the BFH.
Huh?
So bust out the BFH, the big f***ing hammer. All right, sneaky bastards. Yeah! Woo! Oh, yeah.
Putting another 2x4 on there, that'll be fine. We'll yank this out.
She also went ahead and started caulking all the gaps and screw heads in the work that we had done so far. Now I'm off work again and able to help out with the side I've been dreading, a gable side. Yeah. Either side of the garage door is one of those areas where there just wasn't enough material to attach the trim to, so we had to beef them up a bit. At this point, we realized we neglected to add more lumber up here, so we quickly fixed that situation. We really lucked out as far as not having a lot of notched cuts to do, except for this one right at the top of the garage door, but it wasn't too bad. Now, of course, as you go up, the lengths of these boards get shorter. And so to figure out our measurements, we would drop the tape into the gauges and take a measurement. And you would think that that top measurement of the last board would be the bottom measurement of the next board, but we kept coming up exactly 4 inches short. I don't know why, you math geniuses can explain it to me, but we just ended up adding 4 inches to the measurement, and that worked out just fine. We saved the best for last, which is this little torture tunnel. Just because the building is old and not perfectly square or plumb, another thing we did is keep measuring the gap all the way down, and if there was variance, then make adjustments along the way so that you don't end up with sloping boards or uneven gaps or a weird skinny board at the top.
Rotate spray tip to unclog. What is unclog? Nailed it. Spray. Okay. Ready to rock and roll.
All right. Now, as I alluded to earlier, the screws seem to have worked pretty well, except in one area that we're not entirely happy about, and that is in the trim. Actually anywhere that the heads show. They just kind of blew out a little bit, and then that caulk was so springy, it made it kind of like a crown at the top. So in those areas, we are going to hand drive in some of those hot galvanized nails and pull out the screws and fill the holes. Other than that, Very pleased with how this turned out. But we are not done yet. We've got some electrical stuff to do. We got new lights. We got some interior stuff. We got a long ways to go, so be sure and subscribe to follow along.